I'm Miriam Lawrence, and I'm standing in today for Michael Markowitz, who is the director of the Institute for Retired Professionals, and I have the very pleasant task of welcoming you all to this Fridays at 1 on this glorious fall day. For those of you who don't know, the Institute for Retired Professionals, which is soon to be celebrating its 50th anniversary, is a program at the New School. We are about 300 retired and semi-retired people who come together to become both the teachers and the students in the curriculum that we create. And if any of you are interested in more information, we have a mailing list outside, and please sign it. I also have the job of asking you to please turn off all of your mobile devices and tell you that we are doing some filming today. So if you have to exit before the program is over, if you can, try to use the side aisles and not the center aisle. Fridays at 1 programs are made possible by a gift in memory of Estelle Tolkien. And now I would like to introduce Eva Vogel, who has coordinated today's Fridays at 1 program. Eva?
Hi. I did coordinate it together with James Asman for this semester. This talk is the last talk for this semester, but as you can see, we already have a program for spring, so please look it up and come again. This type of program cannot be put together without help of many people, and I would like to especially thank Pam Tillis and all her staff that help us with front desk and just organizing it all. Of course, I would like to thank the IRP staff and all the IRP people who gave us very good leads to wonderful people. So let me talk about Yuri, our speaker. Yuri emigrated to Canada from Czechoslovakia in 1968. He graduated from Ryerson University in Toronto, where he studied photography. Yuri clients are ad agencies, designers, very elite corporation. One of the names is, for example, Cirque du Soleil. Today, Yuri will introduce us to the most amazing images. Some whimsical, some sad, but they are all very beautiful. I cannot forget the images of decaying books. That always stuck the mostly in my mind. These are my favorites, and maybe because it is story behind them that is very personal to me also. His images cover all aspects of life. When Italian magazine L'Espresso decided to create a series of books called Eros e Fotografia, they selected Yuri as one of the artists along with Robert Mapplethorpe. And that kind of gives you an idea also what kind of presentation he will give. He also paid tribute to Canadian veterans, survivors of Rwanda genocides, and the Slovak Holocaust. Please welcome Yuri Dojc.
Thank you. Thank you, Eva, for inviting me. It's a very special day today because I'm reunited in this room with my family, Deutsches, who I haven't seen for 40 years. I only see them once, actually, 40 years ago, and their father was cousin with my father, but I never see them before. And they already have children who I never saw. So it's a very special evening today. Afternoon, sorry. I start with a movie which we did in Czechoslovakia about, it's a 10-minute short movie. In 2005, I was showing my photographs of Holocaust survivors to an audience in Bratislava, and I met a movie producer who asked me, from BBC, who asked me if she can follow me with the camera. We were thinking about doing some short movie, but we ended up making quite an epic, except we only have 10 minutes, and we are still in the process of finishing it. And then I'm going to show you, well, Eva told me to take you through the journey of my photographic experiences, so that's what I'm going to do. taking on the journey what I've done in last 40 years. I'm not going to show you any commercial work, just personal work, because that's where my heart is, in personal photography. And then after the movie, I will show you slide presentation and then question and answers. And my book, last Folio, will be here quickly from Barnes & Noble. And if you want it, then we can sign it for you. I think that's everything. The rest of them I will tell you in question and answers. So we start with the movie. Som neký do Arnholdu prišiel len kvôli nej. To je moja najstaršia kamarátka. Tak pani Ruženka, 100 rokov, čo? 100.
Keď som sa zachránila, tak mali radosť všetci, čo mi pomáhali. Veľkú radosť mali a nič nechceli za to, nič skutočne. Tak to bolo úžasné, jakí vedeli byť ľudia, viete.
Ja som takisto chcel svojej mame pomôcť a slúbil mi jeden sedliak, že ju ukryje. Chuderu ju zobrali z postele v plachte. Postele v plachte do Rebriňáka ju naložili, zaživa ju ušľapali vo vagóne.
Som v Uhrovskom podhradí a za mnou je dom, kde sa za vojny moji rodičia schovávali a kde stále ešte žije rodina, ktorá im pomohla sa zachrániť. Vždycky som rozmýšľal, jak sa sem vôbec dostali, to je, že alebo som sa ich nepýtal. Väčšinu času boli asi tu na. A keď sa dedinčania dozvedeli, že Nemci prichádzajú do dediny, alebo sú v okolí, táto rodina ich zobrala hore do lesa, či asi 2 kilometre odtiaľto. A tam si vykopali bunker a tam prežili posledné mesiace vojny.
Tuto tejto chalúbke sme aj my ukrývali jednu paňu, že tu neprídu Nemci, bolo povedané. A čerta smrlavého prišli. A potom, jak ich našli v tých bunkroch, kdekade v tých horách, tak ich tu doviezli sem, ale potom som sa dozvedela, že ich do Kšiny zaviezli a tam ich že strieľali.
Toto celé ma začalo zaujímať, až keď môj otec zomrel a moja matka už v tom čase nebola schopná rozprávať, takže ten celý obraz som nikdy nedostal, ale zase dostávam obrazy druhých. Cez ich osud sa dostávam v podstate môjim rodičom, ale pravdepodobne ich osud bol podobný ako veľa ostatných.
Ja som bola v koncentráku medzi prvými dievčatmi, medzi prvými Slovenkami a ja som bola taká kapo, ale nie vlastnou vinou.
Ja neviem čo. Ja vôbec neviem sa pochopiť, že toto som všetko ja zvládla.
Keď som začal fotiť, ja som niekedy fotil len za to, aby som niečo mal. Lebo som sa bál, že ten čas pôjde tak rýchle, že nebudem stačiť všetko urobiť. Teraz, po toľkých rokoch, začínam sa viac venovať malým detailom, knihám, lampám, kľúčkam, všetko, čo obklopovalo týchto ľudí, keď tu žili. Takže nachádzam to, čo ostalo. Není toho moc, ale pre mňa je to veľmi vzácne. Čas všetko schátral a to schátranie začína byť vizuálne neskutočne zaujímavé. Takže ma to chytí ako fotografa za srdce a takisto ako človeka, ktorý vie trochu o tej histórii a kto boli tí ľudia a čo sa s nimi stalo. Tu na Slovensku ma všetko zaujíma. A samozrejme, že človeka zaujíma, jak sa to všetko mohlo zmeniť z jedného dňa na druhý.
Bol tu Tiso za slovenského štátu, my ako študenti, ako žiaci, ja taká malá žiačka. Sme boli nastúpení tam za kostolom, tak tam on mal prejav národu, ale môj otec, aký bol dôverčivý a veril ľuďom, povedal, že nikdy nemôžu nikomu ublížiť, že to by nebolo ľudské. Otec sám neveril ani tomu, že sa dostal do lágru.
Vraj, či je to kresťanské, čo sa so Židmi robí. Je to ľudské? Je to rabovka? Je to kresťanské, keď sa národ slovenský chce zbaviť svojho večného nepriateľa Žida? Láska. Láska k sebe je príkazom Božím? Je. Miluj ako seba samého. Táto láska, táto kresťanská láska mi rozkazuje, aby som odstránil od seba všetko, čo mi škodí a čo mi ohrozuje život. A že Slovákovi židovský živel ohrožoval život, myslím, o tom netreba nikomu nič vysvetľovať.
A povediem štát tak, aby sa v ňom uplatňoval duch kresťanskej lásky a spravodlivosti. Tak mi Pán Boh pomáha.
My sme mali to šťastie, že otec o tom vládal rozprávať. Strašne emocionálne. Krásne fotky si by urobil.
Pre mňa táto fotka je jedno z najvzácnejších. Bolo to 3 mesiace pred smrťou mojej matky, s ktorou som zažil najstrašnejšie chvíle v svojom živote v období práve druhej svetovej vojny, teda v období holokaustu, ktorý ma chránila vlastným telom. Naozaj tak, keď sme spávali v tej zemľanke, v tej jame, tak ležala ona na mne a prosila ma stále, aby som neplakal, nekričal. A svoju židovskú matku som miloval. Žil som s ňou 60 rokov.
A možno, že to v človeku vždycky ostáva. Nejaká spomienka z detstva. Kdežto ja nehľadám detstvo, ja hľadám niečo, čo bolo pred detstvom. Ten celý projekt sa stal viac ako taká draga, to sa nedá jednoducho zastaviť. Človek ide, je unavený a pokračuje, lebo cíti, že sa to preteky proti času. Po rokoch fotenia, cestovania po Slovensku, navštevovania rozličných ľudí som našiel niečo, čo som nevedel ani, že hľadám. V tejto modlitebne sme našli knihy, ktoré patrili ľuďom z celého východného Slovenska a medzi nimi som čistou náhodou našiel knihy, ktoré patrili Dojčovej a Goldschmidtovej rodine. A jedna z knížok má pečiatku Jakub Dojc, krajčír Michalovce. Jakub Dojc bol môj starý otec. Nikdy som ho nestretol. Mám jednu fotku s jeho podobizňou na otcovej svadbe, kde má hviezdu na kabáte, lebo musel byť označený. A táto kniha patrí skutočne mne. Tým, že som našiel túto knihu, môžem povedať, že som dokončil cestu. Okay, so this was a short trailer from the material we gathered in Slovakia. We have about 60 hours of film. And it's only a question of time when we gain enough money to finish it. Now I'm going to take you on a journey of photographer. It will be slide presentation. Oh, so neki dohelo krišalenko. They're repeating ourselves. Because of my newfound family, I've put my original name. My name used to be Yuri Dojc, but in 1953, during the Slansky process in Czechoslovakia, my father figured out that it would be better if we changed the name. So the name became Dojc, which is phonetically same name. Well, my father thought he was clever. I started with my trip back to Slovakia. I was not allowed to go. I left 1968. First I went to England, and then I came to Canada. And in 1989 I could go back after 25 years of exile. And this is the country I found. I still love the people there. I still love the place, despite of the memory of from the movie. I went back to the village where my parents were hiding, and this is the scene from the village. The two ladies were talking about World War II and where the people were hiding. The one on the right was the last remaining member of the family who actually hid my parents. First they hid them in their home, and then they helped them in the mountains. So I pay homage to that village, and every time I have a chance to go back to Slovakia, I try to visit. Unfortunately, old lady died and her sons died, so there's not too much left, but I still love to look at the building and the place. Those were the first sort of years after the communism collapse. The place had a certain East European charm, which is gone now. It become a modern country. This is in the high mountains. There's still a large, well, they call them Romas, gypsies, minority. And this is one of them. My favorite time is to go to village, start talking to somebody, and then I invite myself always inside the house, and then I'm in control of situation, and then I do whatever I want. So this is a mayor of a little tiny village. Once he was inside, then he had to listen to me. I did that in Slovakia, I did that in Russia, I did that in Colombia, I did that in Cuba. This is my favorite pastime. Again, during the making movie, we come across lots of interesting people. This is Miloš, another gypsy in a village where my parents were hiding. This is two gypsy children we just saw on the road. Now we come. Slovakia is famous for beautiful women, so I see them everywhere. It's a photographer's. How would you say? That's part of the profession. There's a new Slovak army, and it's a soldier on the guard, female soldier. country is full of castles. This is one of the larger castle in the country, called Spišský hrad, just floating in the clouds. It was a cover of recent magazine. Now, I don't know how many of you know, but you know, you have a sculpture of Andy Warhol in New York, and the sculpture was put last year. Well, I have a surprise for you. In Slovakia, statue of Andy Warhol was there for 20 years. Andy Warhol parents came from Slovakia, and this is the village where he came from. They came from, and I'm looking from the Andy Warhol Museum on the church. The museum is fascinating because not only Andy's pictures are there, but his mother and his brother, who is a chicken farmer near Pittsburgh. And his paintings are, one of them which I remember very well is blue and yellow. So what he does, he takes the chicken legs, put them into the paint, and then he just make impression on the paper. So you can see where Andy learned all his craft from his chicken farmer brother. Now, I don't know if I was really influenced by Andy Warhol, but for years I've been doing photography after commercial work, photography of toys, and I create this whole artificial world of, I call it American Dreams or Mundo Bizarro or whatever. And another subject I love to do is Statue of Liberty, except in my own interpretation. Now I have to warn you that there will be lots of nudity in my work, so if you can handle it, then you have to leave. So this is all my Statue of Liberties. And as you see, I'm a big American patriot. The truth is, she was nude, so I have to cover her somehow. I don't know how many of you are familiar with Advertising Age. This was a cover of the magazine Creativity then. That was a few years ago. They asked me, if you love America so much, why don't you live there? And I said, my pictures are called American Dream. If I would live in America, there's nothing to dream about. So I'm still dreaming about your country from behind. In all this, every time I go to New York or Los Angeles, I buy every junk you can buy. Statue of Liberty, Empire State Building, little cars. Marilyn Monroe is a salt and shaker. And this is in the pre-computer days when I painfully put them together. Everything what you see is in the scale. And then I just do back projection, do a background, wait a day, we process the film, and then if I find the picture is fine, then we go to the next one. Of course, I love Elvis, as everybody else. In Czechoslovakia, we didn't have foreign Western music, so we can listen to Elvis only on a foreign station like Radio Luxembourg. So at night, I would have a cushion over my head and listen to Radio Luxembourg, probably many of Elvis's songs. We had a job to shoot Elvis, so not Elvis, but I was doing beer ad, and I need anything gold, so PropGirl brought me Elvis, and I didn't know what to do with him, so I just put him into this kind of content. I have many props from different commercial shoots, so I use them in my toys game. The bridge you see was from commercial I did for Suzuki. There's a lover boy. Waiting for washroom. I'm sure you all went through this in an airplane. It's just the big boy takes his time. It's supposed to be some kind of statement of So this was toy series. Now we're going to my nude series. I done a few books on nudes, and my nude pictures were in many compilation books. And this is sort of classic stuff, which was mostly in my book Marble Woman. In those days, I had a large studio in Toronto, and models were coming all the time to ask for jobs, or when we finish commercial work, we always shoot something for ourselves. There are quite a few gymnasts. As I call narcissist. We experimenting with the film, we were experimenting with makeups. My motto always is, and I read it from the book by Brodovich, when he told to his photographer, whatever you picture you do, astonish me. I call this a fisherman wife. I done 9 books. 3 of them were on nudes. Marble Woman, Erose Fotografia was done in Italy by a magazine called Espresso, and then I had some compilation stuff. And this is sort of contemporary nudes are shot mostly on locations. I sort of gave up on photographing in studio these days because I just find it too restricting. So we shoot on different location. This is on the shore of the Lake Ontario. As you see, I had too many of them, so I had to break them to 3 parts. This one, sort of arrows in the kitchen. It's mostly done in homes or artist studio. the basement. This one was in, if you see Taschen book, New Erotic Photography. This was one of the pictures in it. This is in my kitchen. I was asked by TV station to do we had 5 photographers, each of us get this couple, and we're supposed to shoot something sexy for the TV. So this is my photo. The more ordinary place I find, more it stimulates me to do photographs. So this is as ordinary bathroom as it can be. This is unposed picture between the shoots. I find the best photography happen when we are at the break, so nobody pay attention to the pictures. My work been published in many compilation books. This is just some of them. Now we change the theme and we're going to the cities. I've been traveling extensively all my life, and this is sort of snapshot of the city as an impersonal place where the man somehow get lost in a big crowd. And this is in South Carolina. This is a bicycle parking in Amsterdam. Musée d'Orsay in Paris. Museum of Natural History in London. Paris. And of course I come to New York as often as I can because it's an extremely stimulating place. This is Bratislava, the capital of Slovakia, and this is what communists did to architecture. This is London, and just very weird that billboard would show the thing you can see with your eyes, and the boards are painted like a tree. It was quite surrealistic, and it's all real. I was the first Canadian on the cover of Communication Arts magazine in 1987. This picture is from La Boca in Argentina. Now, from the largeness of the city, I'm going to go inside the city and go directly to the people. This photograph I did in 1989 when communism collapsed, and I was in Prague. And I call it Prague Kiss. The picture been used for numerous advertisements, and it's sort of, for me, my return to that country and to that whole world. Of course, that was 20 years ago. As a matter of fact, I think today is the anniversary of November Revolution, when communism collapsed. Today or yesterday? Close enough. A London street scene. London. See, those English can be pretty pesky. Except I didn't know if she's pushing him or pushing him away. I just cannot figure out. Oh. Oh, another English couple. It's always happened when I pass by. This is one of those places where English dress up to go for opera, and then they have a party before. And this is seen in Krakow, Poland. In Windsor. Last year I went to Moscow. That was the first time I went to Moscow. And we were taken to this restaurant by Khrushchev's granddaughter and her mother. I think Khrushchev's granddaughter Tichie, Nina. So this is the view from that restaurant. This is a restaurant for writers. But it sort of takes you back to 20s. Prague's scene. This is in Italy. This is an interesting scene. This is a basement of a Slovak church in Toronto. But if you notice, and I didn't crop this picture, I just took it like you see it. But when you look about the door, it says, "O King." Which I never noticed. Somebody just told me. Did you see what it says? I was talking to the priest, and I see this scene in front of me. And I was talking, but I was not listening to him. I was just looking with the eye of the scene and just waiting for the moment when she put the finger up. This is the hazard of photography. You can never really listen to people. You're always looking. Scene in Oxford, England. Now I don't know, just a water fountain. This is in Paris. In 2007, I went to Rwanda on we were doing a project about AIDS, but I spent more time to shooting lots of other things as well. It's a little boy leading us to the Museum of Genocide, one of the many Museum of Genocides. This is in the basement of one of them. And you all probably seen pictures from Rwanda. These are the pencils which were left after the children died in this particular church. This was the guide who was taking us through the museum. Mother and grandchild who just returned back to Rwanda from Uganda. I spent time with the family where a woman was looking after a bunch of kids, orphans, who some of them have AIDS. We didn't know which one, but we spent time with them. It's a beautiful country, beautiful people. This last group of photographs are from the project last Folio, and I worked on this one for 15 years. It started with portrait of my father, who wrote a book about history of Jews of Slovakia, and he asked me many times to help him, but somehow I told him I don't want to have nothing to do with this anymore. I said I live somewhere else, and this thing doesn't mean anything to me. But this is portrait of my father, who I did without thinking that one day I will spend 15 years to follow something which he started. And this was about 2 weeks before he passed away. And at his funeral, I met a lady who sort of got me into the whole project by telling me what happened to her, how she got somebody in Auschwitz told her whole life ahead of her, some Greek fortune teller, and the story was so powerful to me that I end up, as I said, working on it for a long, long time. I started just with the portraits. I had no particular reason what to do with them, or they end up to be, we had an exhibition in Washington, and we flew to Washington on September 11, 2001. We actually landed, and we had a show at Slovak Embassy. First I photographed only the people who I knew in Bratislava through that lady who took me around, and then I hired guides and I went through the whole country. I wanted only photograph in that little place because I am from there, because my parents are from there, and because in that little speck of land there were so many aspects of Jewish life before the war, and these people come from different backgrounds. So you came from very religious to very liberal. And after I showed the pictures in Bratislava at the gathering of people, we start making movie, and during the movie we come across the library of books, which sort of led me for another 5 years of photographing books, cemeteries, and buildings. Now, when I say 5 years, it doesn't mean all the time. I go to the country once or twice a year. I spend intensive 2 weeks just to go through place to place. There's only so much you can take in those places. The books are all finished. There's nothing can save them. But we tried, at least I tried to make some kind of commemoration to people who used to own them, because nobody knows where these people are. Nobody even knows where they die. And nobody cares. This Torah we found at the cemetery, it was in a garbage bag. Many times people ask me about preserving those books. I said they are beyond preservation. The only way they can be preserved is photographically. And that's what I'm doing. This used to be synagogue. After the war, many ex-Nazi become communists, and in order to destroy everything which would remind them of citizens who used to live in the country, they tried to make the synagogues into the mostly warehouses for fertilizer. This particular was warehouse for fertilizer. This is stories behind every of this picture, and this story would take me hours and hours to tell you, so there's no point to go through every picture. But this happened to be in a place which people go and I forgot how we call those places where there was a sighting of Mary, so people go to pilgrimage. So in the place which is pilgrimage, this is what happened to synagogue. In a little town, a gentleman who brought us to the books took us to this place, and this used to be a mikvah. Frankly, my education was not too much steered in religion, so I really didn't understand lots of things. And he explained to us that you go on one step you go into the mikvah dirty, and with another steps you come back clean. And this was the sort of main entry to the place. We're passing different cemeteries. On this one we stopped, and with my luck the train passed by. Now, I was hoping for the classical train which we see in pictures from concentration camps, but surprisingly I showed these pictures to Arnhold Lustig, who's a very well-known writer in Czech Republic, and he says that he was taken in this kind of train, and because it was like train like this, he survived by jumping from it. So after all, I photographed right train. A beautiful synagogue in Košice, in which we are planning to have exhibition in 2013 of the old books. And this is the site how we saw the first time the books when we discovered them. We were in a small town where a total stranger came to us. He knew what we're doing. We were photographing survivors, and he said, "Please, let me show you something. I have a key to the building which you would love to see." We were very skeptical, but eventually we went. We told him we give him 5 minutes. We stayed there for a whole day and returned there. So this is the end of the slideshow. And now you can ask me questions. See, I knew you were going to clap, so I thank you. My relatives are asking me questions.
In Czechoslovakia, oh, sorry. When were you in Czechoslovakia last?
Last probably this year.
8 years.
This year.
Okay.
Did you see similarities photographing the survivors in Europe and the survivors of the Rwandan genocide?
When I was in one of those genocide museum, I was telling that lady who was taking us that I photograph books, old books, and she says, you know, I have to show you something. And then she went, opened the box, and there were some old Bibles destroyed in the same manner as the books I find in Slovakia. So, of course, there's the similarities in this kind of little object, like the pencils. There were shoes, there were clothes. The similar thing we find in Slovakia. But as I said, this is interpretation from my point of view because I've seen it over there, so I can relate to it in Rwanda.
If you can wait for the mic, please. We're recording.
Are taking the nudes sort of consciously sort of an affirmation of life after the degradation of life and the body from the Holocaust? Is that how you feel about it, or?
It's an interesting analogy, and I will use it from now on. It will come really handy. I was wondering about it myself. When I came to Canada, I just feel lost. I was taken away from an environment which I was familiar, and I came to a country which was big, cold, and I feel lost in that vastness of the country. And the nude and I became commercial photographer really fast. And nudes were sort of like escape maybe, as with the toys. Like you lock yourself into another universe. So you don't want to be in a place. And then when I came back from shooting books, yes, I wanted something else. Like you need opposite. When we photograph survivors, if I do 2 or 3 a day, I could not function for a week maybe. My brain was just going crazy because they told us the stories, and you cannot just tell them, sorry, don't tell me story. It happened a few times that I hired somebody with me, and I said, I will take a picture, and you write the story because I cannot listen, and then I cannot function. We tried to do that, but I was always speaking. And one of the stories was most phenomenal, and I'm glad that I was not totally isolated from it. It was a total epic between these 2 people, which you will think that this is just another survivor story, but this was like a huge epic of Hollywood dimensions about 2 people who I saw that they were always together, but they haven't seen each other for 50 years. It's a long story. It's about 15-minute story. Maybe when we have more time, I'll tell you. But interesting idea.
I wanted to ask what your future projects might be.
Well, since I came back from, I was once flying in a plane and I saw a movie about World War II. And I came home and I'm seeing some veterans on television. So I just put together veterans and Holocaust survivors. And I started working on a project of veterans of World War II. And last year we published this beautiful book called Honor, which you can see on the website on the Chartwell, or if you go Honor and Yuri Dojc. It's a Canadian World War II veterans. We crossed the country from one end to another, from Vancouver to Montreal, and photographed those old men and women who were participating in World War II, and we captured their story. So you see, one thing sometimes leads to another. And now we started doing a project about survivors of cancer. I don't want to be in survivor business, but Just sometimes one project leads to another.
You almost answered my question that Carol brought up, and you mentioned similarities. And I think it would be so interesting to see, you talked about the Holocaust and World War II, something about have we gone in, how modern have we become, and where are the similarities in how we treat people? And
well, the similarity, well, it's not really similarity. There's a continuity. But the story of the soldiers were not... The soldiers, for many of them, they came from small towns. And for them, war was probably the most amazing story of their life. They got different kind of feeling. They get camaraderie. They get friendship for life. They seen the world. It's not the same experience as survivors who basically got themselves to a situation which there was no way out. But there is a similarity and there is a total different stories. But it gave me a good feeling that I can do something even for my new country. And the book was incredibly well received. I was actually signing the book last week in Ottawa.
I believe you said you left in 1968 from Czechoslovakia. That was a time of Dojc,
yes.
Dojc, if I'm not mistaken, and the uprising, which maybe we can make a parallel with something of Occupy Wall Street. But anyway, why? Well, why did your family leave if communism had kind of was crumbling at that time, and what brought you directly to Canada?
Well, in '68, my family actually didn't left. I left. I was in England, and my ticket to go back was on August 21st, and that was the day of invasion. So serendipity basically stopped me of going. And then I actually went back later, and I never forget when my father told me, listen, things are getting tougher here. This was like 6 months after invasion. And he said, if you want to live here, just fine, and I will be happy. But if you want to live in freedom, live right now. And I mean not tomorrow, not day after tomorrow, but turn around and get out of here, because they will close the border any minute. So I did. And that was the last time I saw him, till I didn't see him for the next 25 years. But his stay, this question I always ask him so many times, why did you stay? Why didn't you leave as well? And he just doesn't have an answer, and he was always sad when he was talking about it, but at the same time, he had a purpose to stay. And he published a book, When Communism Collapsed, which was very important to him, because he felt that he's the last person who maybe have enough smarts, energy, or intelligence, really, to put together a book about what's left. So there was maybe a purpose. And as I told you, I was enormously influenced by the lady who I met on my father's funeral, who told me about destiny. And since then, I wonder if everything what we do is for a reason. Before that, I didn't believe. I thought that was just, tales. But that lady told me the story to the last detail, what will happen to her. The fortune teller told her, you will come back. Only one member of your family will survive. You will get married later in your life. You will have no children. And towards the end of your life, an angel would come and take care of you. And when I befriended this lady, in 3 years of going back to the country, a young woman arrived on her scene who was eventually taking me around and showing me, and she was the angel who actually took care of that old lady. So is the destiny? I don't know, but I seen one.
Oh, to continue with his question, why Canada, say, over the United States?
I wanted to go to the United States, but I just didn't know how. And You know, I was on Trafalgar Square at one day, and I was going from one embassy to another. So I went to New Zealand embassy. I said, I would like to immigrate. They said, no. Do you have relatives? They said, no. I went to Australian embassy. I would like to immigrate. They said, oh, it will take a long time. That was in 1960. It was after 68. And then next door was a Canadian embassy. So I walked in. And I said, I would like to immigrate. This was in the same day, same time span. And as I was waiting for appointment, there were all kinds of brochures, and there were beautiful housing. And they said, if you immigrate to Canada, you will live in this house. And to me, to be honest to you, I didn't even know there's a huge difference between two countries. And Canadian says, we take you. So I figured, it's answer.
Do you know what the population is, the Jewish population is today as compared to before the war?
Yes, unfortunately I do. Before the war, well, if you take whole Czechoslovakia, it was I think 198,000. Today in Slovakia, if there's 2,000, it's too many. And in Czech Republic, maybe the same number. So from 198, it shrank to 2.
And the gypsy population?
Gypsy population is about 500,000 today. I have to tell you, I met lots of gypsies in Slovakia, and we had some fabulous stories with them. Mm-hmm. Because surprisingly, especially we spent lots of time in eastern Slovakia, which was sort of special part. It was more poor before the war. There was lots of Hasid. And when I see elderly, well, they don't call them gypsies anymore, they call them Romas. When I ask elderly Roma gentlemen, do you remember life in this village before the war? He said, oh yeah, I remember. There's only Jews and gypsies living in this particular village. He said, everybody today are newcomers. And he described street by street, here was Mr. Rosenberg, we used to go to him for sweets. Here was Mr. So-and-so. But there's so few elderly Romas, very, very few. And some villages, in order to go to Jewish cemetery, you have to park your car in Roma's village, and then they will take you to the forest, because they are the only one who know. This is particular one cemetery which I went few times. Mm-hmm. But they live in squalid conditions. You have to be friendly with them because you don't find your car. So we make special effort to be friendly with them, and they are wonderful people, except they have no choice sometimes.
But they were also targeted.
And they were targeted on and off. Like Jews were 100% targeted. There was no exception. The gypsy, they were coming in waves. There was one wave, when they were taking them, then they stopped. Mm. And the lady who told me the prophecy about Pichiket prophecy, she said when Romas came to the Auschwitz, she said the cry was just enormous. The whole Auschwitz was they were crying so loudly because they separate mothers from children, and that was just one of the scenes which this lady very well remember.
Did you get to Ruthenia?
Well, Ruthenia is part of eastern Slovakia.
Now it's Ukraine, though.
Well, it's overlapped. Uh-huh. So Rusnak, as they call them, they live in Slovakia and Ukraine. So and Andy Warhol family, they were Rusnaks. It's a small minority as well who live in that part of the...
That's where my family was from.
Yeah. So as I said, that whole culture still exists there, even in Slovakia.
Okay, thank you.
Let's talk about pictures. Because it's the photography which brought me here. And I'm supposed to talk to you about what makes photographer to take pictures. what inspired him was why he takes photographs. And to me, it's photography is like breathing. I cannot walk without camera. Jerry has my camera right now in his hands. And if I go somewhere without camera, I feel empty. And I cannot even look because I'm so worried that I see something which I will regret. When I was coming here, and I saw a scene on the scene, and I had my camera in my bag, and my wife was saying, we're going to be late. So by the time I took the camera out of my bag, the scene was gone. And the scene is still lingering in my brain. How could I miss it? Why didn't I have camera ready to go? And I happened to have dreams, and that happened quite often, that I am somewhere, I see something, I'm going for my camera, the scene is gone, I wake up totally sweat, and I said, thanks God, it was only a dream. So I didn't miss the picture. Hello? Good.
Could you wait for the mic, please?
How have the changes in the technology affected how you do photography, if at all?
It did, but in a better way, because photography, first part of my photographic life there's lots of technical parts. You have to be technically expert. I always had a very good assistant who did this job for me. I think digital photography liberated people who actually know how to see from the technicians. Because in old days, if you were a very, very good technician, you could survive only on that. But today you actually have to see. And you have to tell me the story. You cannot fool me by technical brilliancy. And there's lots of people still are brilliant, even in Photoshop especially. They become extremely brilliant in technical aspects, but do they tell story? And storytelling will always be, in photography, the number one. So for me, it's a liberation because I don't have to be now very skillful technically. Any camera can help me to come across what I want to say. And I just read some interesting story about some photographer, especially coincidentally again from Czech Republic, who as old man was not allowed to use camera because they took it away from him. So he built his own cameras. He used just a piece of glass as a lens and photographed mostly women because that's what he liked to look. And now he became a huge success because the pictures are rough, small, scrappy, but they tell the story. So yes, I love digital photography because I'm finally free.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.